Hi everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Low Season Traveller Insider Guides, brought to you in partnership with our very good friends at Tourism Ireland. I'm Jed Brown, your host for this week's episode, and for today's episode we head over to Dublin, where I spent a wonderful 3 days in the low season month of January. With clear blue skies, low crowds, and plenty of things to experience and do, Dublin rarely disappoints in the winter months. And what better way to pass the time than meeting up with some wonderful people like today's guest, Eveleen Coyle. Following a long and happy career in book publishing, working with some of the world's leading international publishers, Eveleen founded Fab Food Trails in 2006. Her aim is to celebrate the local food produce, reflecting the traditional and contemporary Irish table across the island of Ireland. While all trails are food-led, guests also delight in shared curiosities relating to Ireland's culture, history and architecture as they walk, chat, explore and taste the produce that has become an inherent part of Ireland's story. So sit back and relax as we head over to join Eveleen over a freshly baked scone at Powerscourt Townhouse just off Grafton Street. Enjoy. So Eveleen, first of all, you are most welcome to the Low Season Traveller Insider Guides podcast. Great to have you on the show.
Thank you for inviting me.
It's our absolute pleasure. I suppose, first of all, for everybody at home that doesn't know you, could you give us a short introduction to yourself and what it is that you do?
Okay, well, what we do is we do food walks around Dublin and around Cork in Ireland. And they're a 2.5 hour stroll, and the idea is that you not just taste the best of what we have, produce-wise, but that you also meet the people involved. And that's very much a part of our walk, because you learn more from them than you're going to learn from anything else. It's light-hearted, it's not food police, they have to be a bit of fun, but they will have the background knowledge for those that really want to know what they're eating. The other thing too is that the walk and what you taste very much reflects how we eat today in Dublin. So it's both, it reflects both the contemporary and the traditional Irish table. How do we choose the places? They're all small, they're all independently owned. You're not going to find them elsewhere. And we choose them because we, as a group of guides living in Cork or living in Dublin, that's where we go. That's where we shop, that's where we buy our cheese, that's where we meet our friends. So as you walk around the city, we'll point out things. We'll say, look, great place for dinner, good place for coffee. They pull a good pint in that pub, which, as you know, is the best compliment you get. Yeah, any pub can get. So it's a mix. And we would also point out things like if we're going through a building where you and I at the moment are, we'll tell them a little bit about the history of it, just a bit. It's not a history tour, but just to kind of place it. Yeah. So that sort of sums it up, really. It's a way of not just tasting the best of the produce, because we do have outstanding produce now, and we have, our whole food story has changed completely in the last 25 years. But it's also a way of meeting the city. Yeah. Curiously, we would get a lot of Dubliners on the Dublin walk, yeah.
Wow.
And quite a lot of Cork people on the Cork one. Yep. And it's actually always a bit of fun, because they all have something to say. They can be a bit contradictory and argumentative, but we get over that.
And then you must obviously have a lot of overseas tourists then as well.
We do. We'd have a mix, yeah. We'd have a mix. Now the groups are fairly small. The max we take is 12. Yeah. So it's usually 10 to 12. It's great. We've tried various numbers. We've tried to go a bit bigger, but it's weird. But once you get to 13 or 14 people, none of us can explain that, but we've all tried it, because the way you try something, you think, well, that's just not working, and then somebody else will do it and it works, which is always a bit annoying. But we've all found that really the max, that it's comfortable and everyone can hear, and shy people aren't afraid to talk. Yeah. And it is important. It is important, because you want everyone to be comfortable. Yeah. And generally, we wouldn't be a vegan tour. We would always say, if that we're not great on the vegan, we can do it, but that's not the focus of it. Yep. vegetarian, anything else is fine. We do ask to be told in advance, and generally people are really good at that. They used to be, but they're much better now.
And but each of the stops along the way, they'll cater to that.
They'll cater to that. We like to know in advance.
Yeah.
I mean, they usually will anyway try and cater, but very often it might be a busy time for them, and it's a little unfair to have ordered and asked them then to change the order. And also, from our point of view, the baseline changes because we pay for everything we order and anything extra along the way. So everything gets a little bit messy because you have to remember to record that so that everybody's, But they're really nice, the people that we go to. The suppliers have always been very good to us. And we also do a food and fashion walk, a food and shopping walk.
Okay.
So that's kind of 4 food stops and then 4 shopping shops. Again, the shops are small, they're independently owned. You're not going to jump off a bus and find them somewhere else, or a plane or a train or anything else. And it's the same idea, but there's no hard selling, and that's really, really fundamental. So if we go in, it's, the shopkeeper, the maker, the purveyor, whatever, will treat it like a gallery. So they're very welcome to look around, they're very welcome to try things on, but there's absolutely no pressure, because there's nothing worse than being in a small shop and thinking, I have to buy something now, and you're buying something you don't want.
We've all had that when we've been somewhere, whether it's you go to the gem factory or whatever, and you feel obligation to buy something. It's nice that there isn't.
So that's absolutely a bottom line. That has to be part of it. Right. So they're nice. We actually get really nice people, and they're generally very interested in coming along. With the food and the shopping, the food and the fashion, you will sometimes get couples, and the men start off like, here we go, but often they're the ones that end up buying,
really?
or saying, well, I want to go back to something, whether it's for a gift or for something for themselves, or, so we try and mix it.
That's so funny. It would be remiss of me not to cover off the fact that, so we are Low Season Traveller. We like to help people understand what it's like in the low seasons, the quiet times of the year in each destination, and that's obviously why we're here in Dublin at the moment, because as we record this, it's the middle of January. Bang in the middle of January, and I've got to say, I've been here now for 3 days. I don't know if I've been lucky, you tell me, Eveleen, but it's just been gloriously sunny for the past 3 days. Cold, but gloriously sunny.
Is that not what it always is like here now?
Is it always sunny? Yeah, there's never any rain, Eveleen.
Hardly ever. Well, I have to say to you now, in 15 years, we've only once had to cancel a tour because of the rain. Now, that's not to say there haven't been a few where it's been wet, but we talk about it far more than we get that kind of really debilitating rain. So, no, it's lovely. But, these are lovely months for us, I think, because there is, I know that expression, we all laugh at ourselves, but it is true. There's a great stretch in the day. It's lighter, longer. It's calmer. And you get that, February can be very cold, but it can be a little bit like you've had, and then March and April's always gorgeous, and then May, you're coming into May, it gets, and then the schools are off. And the other great months here, well, our favourite would be end of September, October, and November's great. It's just lovely, You get that cold, crispy weather a lot in November. I mean, you're terrified to say that because immediately you say it and someone comes and it rains and you're like, I'm really sorry. But it doesn't rain every day,
and no one comes for the weather, let's face it.
No one comes for the weather. No, never, no. And it's, when you get a mix on a walk, it's really funny because if it does rain halfway, visitors will whip out some stylish coat, and put it on, and the Irish all look up and say, that's ridiculous. It wasn't raining when I was leaving the house. Was it raining when you left your house? That's crazy. It's always the same. We look in the morning and think, that's grand, it's not really cloudy. Just ignore that cloud over there.
Who needs apps on phones? Just look at the sky.
It's a nice time. It is a nice time to travel.
I love it. The tours that you've got on at the moment, Do they go on every day during the week?
No, they don't. They go on at the weekends.
The weekends?
Yeah, and actually there's a couple in January, and then it kind of begins to kick in February, March, April, and then we sort of do Friday, Saturdays.
Yep.
And, with what we call private ones, or if there's a group, we can do those any day of the week, except Sundays, because Sundays, particularly since COVID, small places are closed. So while we can do them, they're slightly different, and we feel they're not as good as the weekday ones. Now, if you don't know the city, it's probably grand, but it's not. It's grand.
Yeah. And then tell me this: in terms of the stops that you have, what are the most popular, or the ones which your guests sort of say, "Oh my gosh, that stop was really special"? And is this like choosing your favourite child kind of thing?
A little bit, because everybody has different favourites.
True.
Oddly,
True.
like for lots, it might be ice cream because it's just
Where do you go for
smashing
the ice cream then?
Well, there's a couple, but one of our favourites would have to be 320, which is over in Drury Street, and they're using this gorgeous milk from Jersey cows from an organic farm in Carlow, and the ice cream's made every day, and they're doing their own flavourings. It's just delicious, So there would be that. Others might be cheese, because our cheeses are outstanding now, and they're farmhouse. They're small cheeses. They're made with just love and care, and they're really delicious. And we don't export an awful lot of the farmhouse cheeses because the production is too small.
Right. Okay.
And it's wonderful when we get French people and the shoulder goes up like, cheese, we're going to have cheese. It's like, you're giving us cheese. And they're always blown away.
Really?
Yeah. So, everybody has different things. We're here today now, and, who makes scones like the pepper pot? Just nobody. They're outstanding.
I can confirm
they're
absolutely amazing.
And they make everything. So, they all have their own little kind of favourites, and then we might go for a whiskey tasting, and we would taste something like Powers, go label with 3 swallows or something. We might go to the Swan. We go to a pub that we would go to, so there's be no singing and dancing. It's a pub.
It's a pub
Where you talk.
Right, where you talk. And stories are told.
Yeah, and it's got a bit of history behind it. So we try and we vary the stops a bit. You might have oysters. Again, some people are like, oh, oysters, and others are like, give me more, they're delicious.
That's nice, but if
so
you're
we vary them. Yeah. Or we might go down to somewhere like Fallon and Byrne, which is a really wonderful shop in the middle of town, and we would taste there from their deli counter. They make up something for us, and there's a lovely wine bar downstairs. There's a lovely restaurant upstairs. So we vary it as much as we can.
Yeah.
So.
And then in terms of, for again listeners out there that if they might not have been to Ireland, they could be, I don't know, from anywhere in the world and they haven't been to Ireland. When we talk about traditional Irish food, what kind of meals or food types are we talking about? What is intrinsically
What do you think
Irish?
Is intrinsically Irish?
Don't put it back on me now.
No, if I asked you, what do you think is typically Irish?
So I would say it would be an Irish stew.
Yeah.
Soda bread. Potatoes.
Everyone says potatoes, and we love our spuds.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't we?
Yeah.
Bacon and cabbage would be very typical.
Yeah.
But the thing is, what we have here, the quality of what we have, is so good. Like our beef is terrific. We've cattle outside all year round. Now they might be getting extra food at this time of the year. Our dairy is outstanding. We cook, like, really what happened post-famine was all about surviving. So, it was simple. We kept things as simple as we could. The quality was always great. Yeah, Irish stews, our rashers, our bacon. So, you ate what was beside you, what was local to you. And really, so we never kind of developed the traditions or reputation of maybe places like France or Italy or Spain. They wouldn't have the same amount of exotic foods as we saw them then. But of course that all changed, because in the 90s probably, in the 90s we got rich briefly, but we did get rich, and we had full employment, which we'd never had before, first in our history. what that brought was immigration into this country for the first time ever. We had always left. If you think that pre-famine, there were almost 8 million here. By the 60s, we were 4 million.
Wow.
So, you know, people were leaving and families left. So suddenly, when we got rich, we got posh. You know, we needed more. There was work we couldn't do, wouldn't do. And we had immigration. And all those people brought their traditions with them, but using our produce. And, you know, in the 70s when people began to make small batches of cheese, they were often people who weren't Irish actually, but had moved here for one reason or another, pre-immigration, if you like. So you had people like Veronica Steele, you had people, you know, coming in and making small batches of cheese and saying to us, why are you all eating orange cheese? You've got the best dairy.
Yeah.
And we're like, kind of used to it now. You know. But they didn't have any outlet for selling the cheeses for a while because they weren't, well, first of all, they wouldn't have been popular, they weren't wrapped for the local shop, and all of that was going on. That all changed over the next 20 years. But very slowly. And then in the 90s, everything sort of speeded up. It changed that much quicker.
And when we talk about food, so there's the actual sort of food and the meals. When we travel to different countries, frequently there is a ritualistic element sometimes to food. What I mean by that is sometimes people say, look, you know, actually food for us, it's almost like a celebration. Every evening we have the meal together. Is there any element of ritualism in Irish food? Is there a sort of is there a cultural background or heritage to food?
Like the Sunday
times?
dinner, you mean?
Yeah, maybe. Is that something which you sort of feel exists or did exist?
Do. I think that
is it still there?
I think in a lot of families it probably is. You know, the Sunday dinner was, and people turn up or not. Do you know, the roast?
Yeah.
Or the roast chicken or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe it varies from family to family. Certainly it would be in my own family in a big way, you know, the Sunday dinner. And if they ring and say, I'm coming over to dinner, so well, actually we're not cooking, it's like, right. Oh, I see. Oh yeah, no, that's fine. And clearly it isn't. That would be a big thing. And then obviously there's all the occasions, like, you know, birthday dinners and, you know, that would be probably the more common one, the family. And, you know, with the Sunday dinner, anybody is welcome, like the Batty Alts or the, you know, coming one of those myself, so maybe we will skip that. But, you know, but you have everybody, like, you know, your children are small, you just have your parents, your whoever's around. And it is a kind of whoever's around sort of meal. And I think it goes on quite a lot still. I do.
That's good.
Yeah.
We're running to the end of our time. Just very briefly before we do wrap up, the website where people can go and find out more is
fabfoodtrails.ie.
And we'll put that in the show notes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I just want to thank you so much, not only for taking the time to speak with us, but also showing me this fabulous place where we are today.
The Paris Court Townhouse, and the Pepper Pot.
And the Pepper Pot, which has the most amazing scones.
Yeah, and other food. Yeah, it's very good, very good.
But thank you so much for your time. I greatly appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
So there you have it. And you can learn more about the Fab Food Trails which Eveleen and her team run by visiting fabfoodtrails.ie, where you'll be able to see for yourself some of the wonderful experiences which Eveleen spoke about in this episode. Next time, we continue our low-season Dublin trip as we head over to meet the owner of one of the oldest pubs in Dublin, which you've probably never heard of. I do hope you can join us for that one. But that's our show for this week. Thanks, as always, for your company. And if you enjoyed the podcast, please do leave us a positive rating and review on your podcast app. And also, don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn to be the first to hear our latest low-season stories, articles, and guides. Have a great week wherever you are, and remember that travel is always better and fairer for the planet, the local communities, and you, the travellers, when it's without the crowds.